This is for some grant money Glenwood's trying to apply for, and this is a requirement for us to have this public meeting. So the city of Glenwood would like to apply for a community development block grant funding from Arkansas Economic Development Commission. In order to apply for block funding, block grant funding, the city must conduct a public hearing prior to submitting a application or pre-application. The purpose of this public hearing is to seek citizen input to identify the needs of the community and perspective these individual needs. I'm going to turn it over to Karen Barlow at this time.
Okay. I got somebody else coming in. Okay, as Mayor Plyler just mentioned, the purpose of this meeting is that we're applying for CDBG General Assistance Wastewater Grant through AEDC. And our first rule of thumb that we have to do is we have to conduct a public hearing prior to submitting an application. This public hearing seeks the input from the citizens to identify the needs of the community and prioritize those needs. So the CDBG grant is administered through Arkansas Economic Development Commission with agreement with the state of Arkansas and the U.S. Department of Urban Development, which we call HUD. And the priorities for spending our block funds have to be in line with what the state has as their 5-year consolidated plan. And it can, the plan and priority setting for all the programs into one single 5-year plan with a 1-year action plan. So every year they update their action plan to make sure that it addresses what the community wants to have, and it is also helped by a Zoom. Where in the past they had to go from place to place to do the meetings, now we do them as Zooms. The only cities that cannot apply for this funding, as you will notice, are Bentonville, Hot Springs, Little Rock, North Little Rock, Pine Bluff, Fayetteville, Springdale, Conway, Rogers, Fort Smith, Texarkana, Jacksonville, Jonesboro, and West Memphis, because they are entitlement cities. And entitlement cities receive their funding, their CDBG funding directly through HUD. So it's the non-entitlement cities, such as Glenwood, that has to apply through AEDC to receive CDBG funds. For us to be able to submit the CDBG grant application, we must have an eligible CDBG activity. It must align with the goals of the CDBG consolidated plan and not be eligible for funding any other state CDBG funding program in the current action plan. Let's see. I'm trying to activities. Okay. The list of CDBG eligible projects that can be applied for under this general assistance grant is your public works and your infrastructure, your water and wastewater, drainage and flood control, repaving of streets, handicap accessible ramps, sidewalks. For public facilities, it can be used for youth centers, senior centers, homeless shelters, public libraries, food pantries, abused children's safety centers, training centers for adults with disabilities, cultural centers, adult education center and child care centers, and county health units. So also for the funding objectives, to be eligible for a city or a county to apply for the CDBG funding, they must have a low to moderate income of at least 51%. Well, due to the fact that Glenwood just completed a random survey of Glenwood, their LMI equaled 55.8%, which made them eligible to apply for grant funding. That's one of the criteria. The other one is the prevention of elimination of slums and blight. And then the third one is if there is an urgent need, if there's an emergency situation, then that project could be eligible without falling under the LMI. But for the project that Glenwood is wanting to do, the LMI survey is the easiest one to justify. The city of Glenwood proposes to replace the existing chlorine disinfectant, I'm gonna have to move my screen here, with the UV disinfectant. Due to the lower total residential chlorine standards that have been put in place by ADEQ. By replacing the chlorine disinfectant with UV, the city will be able to meet the standards set in the existing NPDES permit. The city also proposed to make improvements to the existing, I don't even know what that word is.
Aeration?
Yep, you got it. Basin that will help improve the quality of effluent. Is that right?
Effluent, yeah.
From the wastewater treatment plant. So we do know that the city of Glenwood is dependent on this CDBG funding to move this project forward. The grant funds can be requested up to $500,000, but the city of Glenwood will be asking for $499,828. There's no cost share through this grant program. And the city of Glenwood will continue to own and operate the municipal water wastewater system under permit from the Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality. There is, since we did the LMI survey, HUD does not have any guidelines in place that says how long that we can use that LMI survey. We can use it until we're told different. And that would be either HUD changes and decides that they're gonna set a time limit, or the state decides they're gonna set a time limit. But until then, we will use our LMI survey until we're told different.
Okay.
Okay, right here, if anyone wants to leave comments about the hearing, it can be placed here. Now, also, you have a link right here, and I'm gonna click it. Right there. Okay, Heather, you're gonna have to tell me when I get to the new page. Share, yes, okay. As you'll see, here is the City of Glenwood public hearing. And anyone that wants to leave a comment in reference to this project or to this public hearing, they can type in a comment, their name, email, and post it, and we will get those comments and have those ready for the application.
All right.
All right, here we go. So I'm gonna go back to here. Is there any comments or questions about this project?
Well, one of the urgencies of this is our permit, with ADQ, we're in the renewal process a bit right now. And ADQ is really on us about, they know we're not gonna pass because you can't put any chlorine out. You're gonna have fecal chlorine at the plant. And they've took all of our chlorine, residual away, and we're failing every month with it. So this is something we're gonna have to do, figure out a way to get it funded. And right now, that's not changing our permit, but we don't have a new permit either. We're just now in the beginning stages that, Chris, that comes due in June. We started now, but I think it renews in June. We have to have the final, application of how we're gonna operate for the next 5 years done by June. And we're not sure how that permit's gonna come. But this is something that ADQ is wanting done in a worst way, and we're trying to figure out a way to get it funded, because we can't keep doing what we're doing.
This application will be due Friday. So, and the deadline is October the 13th, that it has to be with AEDC. We will know by April whether it's been awarded or not. If it's not chosen for award, we can turn right around and resubmit for the April application deadline and would know by October.
Okay,
So this is something, if we don't get it this time, we just keep resubmitting it. We don't give up on it.
okay.
Is there
Glenwood can
any-
have one open application, or any city can have one open application at a time, is all they can have, correct?
Correct.
And then it's
So-
once, they do it once every 6 months.
Yeah, and like if you are awarded this grant and we know by April, once that grant is completed and closed out, then you can apply for another one. But the cycles are every October and April that
Okay.
applications are due.
Alright,
If you were to apply for something that was an extension to an existing infrastructure, such as, say, your water, say you wanted to expand your water, then have new customers, then you could apply for an application for up to $1 million. But if it's just an improvement, which is what we're doing right now, the limit is 500,000.
does that have to be in the city limits, or can that be in the Glenwood service area if it was out of the city limits? Because Glenwood's got some customers that want water that's out of our city limits, that's ours, that we're supposed to get water to. Could that be applied to there, or is this only in the city limits with this grant?
That I would have to verify through AEDC and the grant manager to see how they look at that. But if we had to do that, you would take the area that you were wanting to extend, and we would just do a survey, an LMI survey of those people
Okay,
to add to it.
that's just something that may come up in the future. It's not, I've had some people asking for water, and the city don't have money to extend water mains. But I mean, we gotta get this project done. There may be some other city projects that need to be done before this, but I know Glenwood's got some customers that we're responsible for with city water that we don't have water to. For instance, from Langley up to, from Lodi to Langley, we don't have water to. If we get some help on that, I don't know if this is the proper way to do that. And I mean, we've gotta take care of in-city limits first, but that may be, we still try to need to look at something up through there one of these years.
Yeah, at one time that was gonna be done, and we were supposed to do LMI surveys. But that was, back, I don't know what Glenwood's LMI was at that time, but we were required to do surveys down through, from Lodi to Langley.
Yeah.
But
That all
the
got
issue-
canceled after the flood. That project was ready to do, and it got canceled by the USDA after the flood because they didn't want anything at Albert Pike, so.
Mhm. Yeah, that knocked them out.
And that's really not to do with tonight. It's just, you were discussing, I didn't
Yeah.
know how that could be used.
Well, anything we discuss tonight can be looked at in the future. Even any other future grants that we might be looking at can be discussed at this public hearing.
Right,
And those notes will be made.
right. But Glenwood's got some other projects in the city I'm sure we need to apply for before that, but need to keep that in mind too.
Okay?
And this one, till we get it done, this is one we're gonna keep hammering on, because this is one we're gonna get told we gotta do shortly, so, if you go to, all the guys going to the meetings on their license, they're telling them they're taking cities off every day, making them go from chlorine to UV, and they're wanting us to do that real quick, and they've already cut our limits down on the last permit, and we weren't compliant, so we're gonna have to figure out some way to operate. This is the least expensive of alternatives to operate. That's why we chose this. I'm just glad we got LMI eligible so we can finally try to get some help.
And Kyron will have that in his pre-engineering report, preliminary engineering report, so that we'll have that documentation to put in the application of what the issue is.
Yeah, I think it's in the application, in that, guideline form I signed today for him to get started. It's talking about that a little bit in that. So we may need to get in it a little more. Number 14 talks about that there. It says there's no enforcement at this time. The city's purpose is to replace existing chlorine disinfectants with UV disinfectant. This is due to lower, total, residual chlorine standards that have been put in place by AEQ, which is 0.002, which isn't even a traceable amount. So you can leave with no chlorine in there, and we can't pass, you're gonna have fecal, you're gonna have chlorine, without UV, and we don't have UV right now, so, and that, he's talking about that in his permit, so he'll get more detail than that, I'm sure.
Okay. And I will come by, and there's a couple more forms that I'll need you to sign. One of them will be the cover page for the application, and what's the other one?
That's the right, just.
Of the K.
The reporting form.
Yeah, and then we have a Schedule K that you'll have to sign, and it just, what it's gonna be is, if you were a nonprofit, somebody's gonna have a lot of money, but since it's a city government, it kinda zeroes out, but you still have to sign it.
Okay,
So we'll have those two documents for you to sign after we get her in from Kyron and the application that you just signed, then we'll be ready to put it in the mail.
he's gotta have all that to you, that's gotta be final by the 13th, and this is the 9th.
Yeah, he has to have it to me, and when he gets, after we submit this application, as he's getting letters through AEDC, we're sending them as he's getting letters on those other documents you have, he's sending them to us, we're sending them straight to AEDC, and they're putting it in the folder.
Okay, so it's already, okay.
That's
Cause I know we're on a deadline, this all come up real quick on the city, they think the council meeting we had last week was quick. But if anyone's looking at this, everybody needs to understand, we didn't get qualified for LMI till 10 o'clock last Monday.
That's right.
And this application has to be final by the 13th, so this is fast, it's not something that we normally do, but in a grant situation, I don't think the public, even though we haven't been able to talk about it much, I don't think anyone would be upset at all with us trying to get a grant application in, to meet the deadlines, and, I mean, from last Monday till the 13th, there's not much time.
Plus, one thing, there's not a cost share to the city. So
Right.
this is 100% money, no cost share.
Right. If we can get it, it's a good deal for the city.
Yes, it is. Very good.
And we need it. We just don't, the problem with us, you put $500,000, Brenda, how many sewer customers we got? We don't have about 600 sewer customers. 749 is our customer count on sewer. If you divide $500,000 payment on 749 customers, it's gonna raise the sewer rate astronomical, and we just can't afford that right now.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have to figure out and put it in the application what the benefit is. So like
that's a big benefit, cause people can't afford, I don't know what $500,000 divided over 20 years comes to on a sewer rate, but it's gonna be several dollars. I hadn't sat down and put a pencil to that, but,
well,
we can't get anybody to fund it. Even if you had it, you ain't got anybody to fund it.
Mm-hmm. So, is there anything else that you have questions of me?
I think we're good.
Okay. If you want to adjourn the meeting, just do so, and we'll end it.
We're gonna end this meeting, and then, October 24th will be a big city council meeting for everybody that's on here. A lot of stuff going on that night, and we'll fill everybody in on where we are on all this application at that time. So I appreciate everybody that logged in and took part of this. Thanks so much from the city of Glenwood's part.